Arkansas, known for its quiet towns and southern charm, harbors a violent underworld where ruthless gangs operate in the shadows. From the brutal white supremacist prison gangs like the New Aryan Empire and White Aryan Resistance, to deadly street crews such as the Wolfe Street Crips and Real Hustlers, Inc. These organizations control drug trade, enforce loyalty through violence, and ignite bloody rivalries across communities. With deep roots in both urban streets and correctional facilities, the most dangerous gangs in Arkansas pose a serious threat to public safety, combining ideology, power, and organized crime in deadly fashion. To the dirt, inside the New Aryan Empire. Hidden deep within the prisons and backwoods of Arkansas lies a white supremacist criminal organization as secretive as it is savage. They call themselves the New Aryan Empire. Founded in the early 1990s, not on the streets but behind prison walls, this gang grew out of hatred, loyalty, and methamphetamine. Its motto, "To the dirt," is more than just a slogan. It's a blood oath, pledging allegiance to the gang until death. At its core, the New Aryan Empire, or NAE, is a white supremacist prison gang. But over time, it evolved far beyond prison yard politics. Its members began organizing hits, trafficking meth, and coordinating street-level crime from inside their cells, building a violent empire that extended across Pope, Johnson, and Saline counties. Membership in the NAE is not given. It is earned, often through violent initiation rituals, brutal beatings, or carrying out an order to maim or kill. Betrayal is met with swift retribution. Informing means death, loyalty means survival. And the gang's leadership enforces this with military-style discipline and coded communication. Over the years, NAE's crimes mounted. The gang began organizing drug rings using a network of free world associates, family, friends, even girlfriends, to move meth across county lines and into neighboring states. Methamphetamine became the lifeblood of the New Aryan Empire. Users became dealers. Dealers became soldiers. Soldiers became enforcers. In 2017, federal investigators launched one of the most aggressive crackdowns in Arkansas gang history. Through wiretaps, surveillance, and confidential informants, the FBI and ATF uncovered a massive criminal web. More than 50 NA members and associates indicted in a sweeping RICO case. Among the charges, kidnapping, witness intimidation, drug trafficking, and attempted murder. The most chilling aspect? The gang's obsession with secrecy and internal enforcement. In one case, NAE leaders ordered a hit on a fellow member, simply for cooperating with law enforcement. He survived, but just barely. Another victim was tortured with a blowtorch in a mobile home, all because he was suspected of being an informant. Despite the arrests and life sentences handed down to its leaders, the New Aryan Empire remains far from extinct. Like many prison gangs, it has adapted, operating in the shadows, recruiting younger members, spreading its ideology through hate, loyalty, and fear. What makes the New Aryan Empire especially dangerous is not just its violence, but its belief system. Its members don't just want control, they believe they are at war, a racial, ideological war, and they are willing to die for it. In Arkansas, the New Aryan Empire rose from concrete cells and razor wire fences, but its poison spread far beyond the walls, into homes, into towns, into hearts. This is the story of the New Aryan Empire, where loyalty is life, betrayal is death, and the only exit is to the dirt. War behind bars, the White Aryan Resistance of Arkansas. In the shadows of Arkansas's prison system, a silent war is being waged, a war born not from territory, but from hate. This is the story of White Aryan Resistance, not the national group from the 1980s, but the prison gang of the same name, operating in Arkansas, cloaked in violence, ideology, and fear. They are not a street gang, They are not a political movement. They are a criminal organization built on racial supremacy and controlled chaos. WAR, White Aryan Resistance, has embedded itself deep within the Arkansas Department of Corrections. A prison-born gang fueled by neo-Nazi ideology and a code of loyalty that demands total submission or death. Members of WRR are branded with ink that tells a story. A pyramid symbol, runes drawn from Nazi-era iconography, the infamous 14 referencing a white supremacist creed, and the number 88, code for Heil Hitler. It's more than ink. It's identification. It's rank. It's a warning. Like other white prison gangs, WAR operates under a strict hierarchy. Orders come from the top, often from lifers locked away in solitary confinement. But influence flows freely through coded messages, legal mail, and contraband phones. Their activities range from internal enforcement, assaults on rival inmates, to external coordination, drug trafficking, intimidation, extortion, and orchestrated violence across Arkansas communities. WAR thrives on methamphetamine. It is their currency, their recruiting tool, their weapon. Members use it, sell it, and punish those who interfere with its flow. On the inside, WAR uses violence to control cell blocks. On the outside, they use meth profits to support incarcerated members, fund lawyers, and enforce silence. You don't leave WAR. You don't walk away. If you talk, if you flip, they'll find you, inside or out. You're either in for life or out in a body bag. Authorities have tried to crack down, but WAR is elusive. Unlike national gangs, it operates primarily inside the Arkansas prison system, giving it less exposure, but no less danger. WAR maintains loose ties to other white supremacist gangs, including the new Aryan Empire and Aryan Circle, but it functions independently, rooted in local control and brutal discipline. Inmates identified as WAR are often placed in isolation, their communications monitored, their visitors screened. But suppression is not the same as eradication. WR uses coded language, legal loopholes, and gang kites to continue operations even from the hole. The gang's most dangerous weapon? Patience. They wait, they watch, and they strike when least expected. The Arkansas-based White Aryan Resistance is not about protest or pride. It is about power, built through violence and sustained by hate. Their presence may be confined to prison walls, but their influence seeps into communities, courtrooms, and the corridors of law enforcement. Behind the wire, the war rages on. For war, there is no truce, no forgiveness, only loyalty, punishment, and the promise of blood. This is the White Aryan Resistance, a name born in hate and living behind bars. Real Hustlers, Inc., Bloodlines in Little Rock. In the heart of Little Rock, Arkansas, a war was brewing, not over land, but over respect, power, and survival. At the center of that storm stood a gang that would come to define a generation of street warfare in Arkansas's capital. They called themselves Real Hustlers Incorporated, RHI. Formed in the early 2000s, RHI emerged from the remnants of an older, more local crew, the Monroe Street Hustlers. But this wasn't just a group of corner dealers. It was an evolving criminal enterprise tied deeply to the Bloods and rooted in the streets of East and South Little Rock. Real Hustlers, Inc. quickly grew into one of the most feared blood sets in the city. Their reputation, built on violence, loyalty, and a relentless push into drug territory once dominated by rival Crips sets like the Wolfe Street Crips and Hoover Crips. By 2016, RHI wasn't just a local gang anymore. They were a network pushing crack cocaine, marijuana, and pills. They controlled blocks, intimidated witnesses, and armed themselves with military-grade firepower. RHI members carried AKs in backpacks and posted threats on social media. daring enemies and authorities alike to challenge their control. Then came the night that shook the city, the Power Ultra Lounge shooting. 28 people were injured when gunfire erupted during a concert featuring local rapper Finizzi 2 Times, an associate of RHI. What began as a fight backstage turned into a mass shooting, one of the worst in Little Rock's history. While no one was killed, the message was clear. RHI wasn't just street level anymore. They had become infamous. The shooting was the last straw. By 2018, federal agents launched Operation Big Rock, a joint crackdown led by the FBI, DEA, and local law enforcement. A total of 21 RHI members and associates were arrested, including key lieutenants and shot callers. The charges: racketeering, drug trafficking, firearms violations, and conspiracy to commit murder. But even as leaders were sentenced, a warning echoed through Little Rock's streets. Real Hustlers, Inc. She wasn't dead. It was evolving. Today, remnants of RHI remain active, splintered into smaller sets, younger, more unpredictable. The gang's legacy lives on in the form of street alliances, social media call-outs, and turf battles that continue to claim lives. But in the same streets where bullets once flew, there are now voices calling for peace. Families, mothers, former gang members turned mentors. They speak not of war, but of healing. Real Hustlers, Inc. was born from the struggle, a product of poverty, fractured families, and the lure of fast money. It rose like smoke from the pavement, and while law enforcement took down its leadership, the cycle it fed still turns. This is the story of Real Hustlers, Inc. A gang, a movement, and a warning. The Wolfe Street Crips, Blue Flags in Little Rock. In the neighborhoods of Little Rock, Arkansas, beneath the shadow of boarded-up buildings and flashing streetlights, a name echoes through the streets with weight and fear. The Wolfe Street Crips. Named after a narrow stretch of road in the heart of the city, the Wolfe Street Crips, or WSC, are more than a street gang. They are a generational force. A crew tied into the National Crips Alliance and locked in a bloody battle for control of the city's corners, its drugs, and its reputation. Their origins date back to the 1990s, a time when Little Rock was caught in a storm of gang violence so severe it drew national attention. Gangs like the Hoover Crips, Gangster Disciples, and Bloods sets flooded the streets. And amid the chaos, the Wolfe Street Crips carved out a name of their own. Born in the heart of Little Rock, bound by blue, and ready to ride. WSC members are known for their street loyalty, their fierce retaliation, and their no-snitch code. They run tight sets, often operating out of trap houses and apartment complexes with a steady stream of drugs, from crack and weed to pills and fentanyl, pushing through the city. Their main rival? The Bloods, especially the crew known as Real Hustlers, Inc., RHI. The beef between Wolfe Street Crips and RHI has turned Little Rock into a battleground. For Wolfe Street Crips, the war isn't just physical, it's digital. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. These platforms have become modern battlegrounds where disrespect gets posted and revenge gets real. Call-outs online often lead to shootouts offline. The violence isn't random. It's targeted, planned, and deadly. In one notorious case, Wolfe Street members were linked to a retaliatory shooting just hours after a disrespectful video was posted by an opposing set. This cycle of provocation and vengeance has left behind a trail of bodies, broken families, and police tape. Law enforcement has responded with force. Through federal indictments, wiretaps, and multi-agency raids, they've made dozens of arrests, targeting Wolfe Street Crips' alleged leaders and gun runners. But each time one member goes down, another rises to take his place. Because this isn't just a gang, it's a way of life. Former WSC members said, when you grow up around Wolfe, you don't just join the set. You're born into it. Your uncles are in it. your cousins. It's survival. Either you roll with the Crips or you get rolled on. But behind every gunshot is a mother's cry. Behind every raid, a community left torn. And behind every blue flag, a boy who could have been something more. Today, efforts are underway to break the cycle. Church groups, outreach workers, and former gang members are stepping into the streets, hoping to pull the next generation away from the life. But the Wolfe Street Crips are still here, still operating, and still fighting to hold their corner of the city. In Little Rock, the name Wolfe Street carries both pride and pain, a symbol of power, a warning to outsiders, and a legacy written in blue. This is the story of the Wolfe Street Crips, where survival wears a flag, and the streets never forget. The Dixie Mafia, crime, corruption, and Southern blood. Before Crips and Bloods. Before prison gangs marked their turf in ink and blood, there was another kind of underworld built on charm, violence, and Southern hospitality. They were called the Dixie Mafia. And in the backroads of Arkansas, they ran everything. The Dixie Mafia wasn't a gang in the traditional sense. There were no official ranks, no colors, no tattoos. But make no mistake, they were as organized, as deadly, and as ruthless as any crime syndicate. Born in Mississippi, raised across the South, and feared in Arkansas. During the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, the Dixie Mafia took root in places like Hot Springs, a town once dubbed the Las Vegas of the South. Illegal gambling, bootlegging, protection rackets, all operating in plain sight. And behind it all, a loose alliance of criminals, ex-cons, crooked sheriffs, and Southern hustlers who called themselves the Good Old Boys. In Arkansas, the Dixie Mafia made their name through gambling and corruption. Sheriffs were bought, judges looked the other way, and if someone talked too much, well, they'd vanish off a country road, their car found in a ditch, their body never recovered. One of the most notorious Dixie Mafia figures was Kirksey Nix Jr., a charming, deadly con man from Louisiana who rose to prominence by running scams, extorting millionaires, and ordering hits from inside prison. His influence stretched deep into Arkansas, even while he was locked up. From his prison cell, Nix orchestrated the Lonely Hearts scam, using female accomplices to lure rich, elderly men into marriage, then robbing them blind or worse. Arkansas was one of several states where these schemes played out, often ending in murder. But the Dixie Mafia wasn't flashy. They didn't crave headlines. They operated like ghosts, working through crooked cops, Southern judges, and backroom deals. To cross them wasn't just dangerous, it was a death sentence. In the late 1970s and 80s, the federal government began cracking down. The FBI, ATF, and local task forces launched investigations into organized crime in Arkansas. One by one, key players were arrested, indicted, or found dead. But the Dixie Mafia didn't disappear. It just changed form. Today, law enforcement believes elements of the Dixie Mafia still operate, especially in drug trafficking, stolen goods, and outlaw motorcycle alliances. The faces have changed, but the game hasn't. Retired FBI agent. We used to joke that they wore cowboy boots instead of pinstripe suits. But make no mistake, they were just as dangerous as the Italian Mafia. In Arkansas, the Dixie Mafia left behind more than cold cases and corruption. They left behind a legacy of crime woven into the very fabric of Southern tradition, where family, loyalty, and silence were worth more than gold, and where violence wasn't loud. It was quiet, calculated, and final. This was the Dixie Mafia. No colors, no codes, just blood money and Southern justice.